Welcome back, everybody. Today here with Zack Wallace, who went from being the nation's top advisor at a Fortune 100 firm to walking away to start his own, proving that true expertise comes first. And today we'll explore how that hard-won experience became the foundation of his all-in-one advice model there at ABRI, and what it really takes to leave a winning hand to build something better. Zack, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Busy as heck, but we're having a good time. So yeah, grateful.
I'm happy to
Man,
be here.
we're excited to have you. I think it's going to be a good discussion today. I've been looking forward to this, and yeah, so we'll jump into some quick icebreakers here and then get off to the races. Zack, if you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, what are you keeping? And this doesn't include phone, text, browser and mail, but extra.
I think I would keep Spotify. I would keep Google Maps, and I would probably keep Artsy, which is like an art auction site. Those are probably the only
really?
3 things that are worth spending time on. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember how to get
Nice.
anywhere. I used to print off MapQuest maps in high school, if you remember
Yes.
MapQuest.
Do you remember those?
Google Maps is very valuable. Spotify
Yep.
is every day. And then the art site, if I'm ever like trying to scroll on anything, it's just looking at art.
Yeah, I like it. Dude,
What are
I
yours?
remember going places and we'd have just 10 pages of
Yes.
MapQuest just flipping through.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those are the days.
Man, I want to make our kids go back to learn how to drive like that.
Yeah, for sure. You had to look and read and try to not miss something. Because if you
Just
missed
like
it, then it was kind of a deal. You had to turn back around and
you would have no idea if you missed it. I think that's the thing. You miss it and you actually don't know that you missed it. And then you're 20 minutes away from the turn you missed. And you're like, I think I missed it, but there's no confirmation that you missed it until you go, and you don't know how far you have to go back. I think that insecurity of driving, like, where am I? Just like our kids have no radar or awareness of. I'm like, we had a lot of moments where I have no idea where I am or how to get back. Yeah. So Google Maps has been a lifesaver, I feel like, for me and so many others. That's been really sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's fair.
What are your 3 apps?
My 3, probably. So I use Apple Music as opposed to Spotify. So yeah, I think that's probably one I'm going to keep. And Mile IQ, actually, that's my mileage tracker.
Okay,
so I still drive, in terms of what I'm using all the time. And there'd be a tremendous business expense that would have no record at all if I was not. I mean, it's like multiple trips a day I'm logging. So yeah, I definitely need that one. And third one, that I don't know what I'm actually using a lot to feel like it would really severely change my life. I like the Photos app, actually. On our TV, whenever it goes to screensaver, it cycles through all of our photos. And so that's cool because the kids are always like, oh, when was that? Or what happened there?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm pretty grateful that we have. That's something that I think in the smartphone era, growing up, having a flip phone, just the access to memories like that is pretty cool. That it's fun. You don't have to print them out and have 100 of them on your wall anymore. It's just a little bit more compact.
That's really sweet. It's a good one.
So yeah. If a movie was made about your life, who would you like to play Zack Wallace?
Oh, man. I mean, Brad Pitt's, I think, at the top of everybody's list.
Okay. Yeah,
I think. But I think more realistically, it's probably Kirk Cousins. Do you know who Kirk Cousins is? He's like a football quarterback. I think he plays for the Vikings, or used to.
Yeah.
He's
I do know that from back in the day.
He's my doppelganger. People will ask, hey,
That's
are you
funny.
related to this guy?
No way.
I don't know if he can act. I'm sure he can. But if I had to pick somebody that I think that was Zach in the movie, it would be Kirk Cousins. He'd be
nice.
One. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Okay. All right. And then the last one, weirdest thing, might be food, might not, that you've ever consumed, ever had to eat.
Oh, man. When I was a kid, I grew up in a poor farm town in Michigan. And at night, in the spring and the fall, we'd go frog hunting. So we'd go into the bogs with sticks or baseball bats, and bullfrogs would croak, and we'd crack them, drag them onto the beach. And then we would actually cut off all their legs, skin them, and fry them.
Nice.
So full, fresh, real, just butter, salt, and frog legs as a kid. And I loved it. It's amazing.
That's so cool.
But I think that kind of freaks out a lot of people. It's I grew up killing and eating frogs, which is a very strange thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the top of the list.
Okay, that's cool. I like it. Yeah.
What's your answer?
The weirdest thing, I don't know. It would be something similar. I don't think I've had anything like super bizarre. Like that. Yeah, something that was really. I've kind of veered away from like, anything that's congealed blood or something in that. Like I just have no interest in that. I like a lot of kind of funny things like escargot. I think snails are amazing, like if they're prepared well. So I'll try anything. But if it's really, really off the rails, I'm just like, yeah, stick with traditional food. It's funny you say that about frogs though. We were on a trip last year and we had frog legs as one of the courses, and I took a picture, and this is not a good dad moment for me, but our youngest Henry, like frogs are his favorite thing in creation right now, and they have been for some time. Like that's just everything is about frogs and toads. And I took the picture thinking I might show it to him, and it was kind of twisted like a little bit. I was like, hey, like this is what dad got to have on a trip.
I just ate your favorite animal.
Yeah, he wasn't that impressed. It's like, no, that's not
cool. Not cool.
He's not going to be trying frog legs anytime too soon, but
it's worth it. I think they're actually terrific. I think a lot of people really like them. It's like the best version of chicken you'll ever have.
There you go. Best version of chicken. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Zack, like I said, there are a few different things we can talk about here today with your background. I would like to start off, give everybody who doesn't know you a little bit of an understanding of your early days as a financial advisor, right? You're working with a huge firm and you get to the top relatively quickly. You're what age when you kind of like hit your peak there? Like 20?
Yeah. I started at 25, if I remember right. Started at 25. The firm that I joined had about $11 billion under management. It was a part of a much larger national network, which I think is like the largest financial planning company in America now, with like hundreds of billions of dollars under management. But our little branch had 11 billion, was about 200 advisors. I was 25 when I started. One of my buddies was an advisor there and thought I'd be a good fit for it. It was probably the last job I'd ever want to do. Like I said, I grew up in a pretty poor farm town in Michigan, and there was like one financial advisor in town that ripped a lot of people off. So it kind of had a pretty bad taste in my mouth of what it was. And I had just a friend of mine gave me some really good advice. He's like, just because somebody's done it that way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can kind of create your own like version of how you want to provide advice. And that was really helpful. The reason I chose to be an advisor at that time was I really wanted kind of I call it the holy grail of work. I really wanted to have like ultimate flexibility, significant income, and deep impact in the people that I was helping. A lot of teachers have deep impact and flexibility, but not significant income. A lot of like doctors can have like income and impact, but not flexibility. And I realized there's a lot of those jobs that have maybe 2 to 3, but almost no job has all 3, except the role of financial advisor. You can have significant income, you can have deep impact, and you can have ultimate flexibility. At least that was the dream that was pitched to me at the time. Yeah. And so I joined at 25, hoping to be able to have like a swipe at all 3 of those at some point in the future. I was fortunate to be a part of a really successful team inside of that firm that just gave me a lot of tools to be successful. And I just worked really hard, kind of just blast out of the gates. At that time, I'm sure it's changed since, and I'm sure there's been some rock stars that have come through there later. But at that time, my first year, I became in like that 12-month cycle the number one advisor at that firm. And then that next year, I built the fastest practice in the history of the company. And the company was started in 1800. So we ended up just growing really quickly and having a lot of early success, which I was really fortunate for. Rolled out a couple more years forward, that business continued to grow and became pretty significant. I was still under 30, but making a pretty significant income and having a pretty cool impact and had a lot of flexibility. But once I got to the top, that's when I kind of started seeing some of maybe the skeletons in the closet, or kind of some of the bad things behind the curtain. And what I didn't know at the time is that when you're a financial advisor, at 95% of all financial advisor W-2 advisors are part of a larger wirehouse or insurance company or bank. And what ends up happening is that you are really just a salesperson of a distribution center that manufactures products. Mm-hmm. So I say that like if you're a part of a network that has like a large life insurance company behind the scenes, at some point you're as the advisor front recommending life insurance, because how you get paid, how you get incentivized, everything is tied to that one product. If you're part of a bank, there's a banking product like a checking or savings account or a credit card. If you're part of a wirehouse, which is like a big investment account, there's a portfolio or a fund. or a placement or an SMA that's going to essentially roll out to the client. So the clients are essentially buying products through advisors, the firms are distribution centers, and then the home office is the manufacturing company creating products. I thought as I continued to climb the ladder and had more success, that I would have more control on what gets offered to clients and what advice gets given to clients. But what ended up happening is that no matter how high you climb or how significant your influence might be, you're still a part of a system that has their core incentive, which is a moving product.
Yeah.
And I, again, had some success, and I was flying around the country and talking to the firms and teaching them how to kind of build a quick practice, all those things. But essentially, it kind of came to a head in my early 30s where I realized like I just kind of got burnt out of the whole system. I just thought that this is still a really old and archaic way to provide advice, and it really wasn't in the best interest of anybody. People show up for advice and walk out of the product and feel really good about it because they have this really talented salesperson they interacted with. But ultimately, their life isn't fundamentally different or better. So that kind of brought me to breaking away and starting my own thing.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. I know a little bit of your story, having met you a few years ago and getting to talk with you. One of the things that I was kind of curious about, and something you shared with me, was when you decided to leave that firm and start your own, you have options, right? You're successful. You could go into any number of businesses, and you're like, I'm gonna stay here. We're gonna stick with financial advising, and I remember
do it all over again.
And do it all over again. And I remember you telling me that years ago now how boring it was, because at least when you start something new, you have all the excitement of failing and trying this. And this is like, I know how to do everything. I'm just starting from zero. It's just like back to square one and just running back up. So why, first of all, like what was the motivation behind staying there? Because obviously if you have options and you can be relatively secure financially and going in any number of things, why did you stick with the advisory firm to begin with?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first issue that I was facing, it is just like you talked about, starting the same thing you just started 5 years later, you don't have the same juice, momentum, tolerance. Like it is like hard. It's even harder to do that than just doing something new. Like you're just completely burnt out. So restarting all of it is really tricky, which is I think what keeps a lot of people right where they're at. There's like one, the momentum. It's like, hey, now all the money's here, the clients are here, like my relationships are here. Maybe it's not the best thing ever, but like I feel kind of stuck. What they're really articulating is like, hey, I don't know if I do it again, I'll be successful. But they're also articulating like, I don't know if I have the stomach for it anymore. It's like, I don't know if I could do it all over again. And that was a real issue for me, especially because I grew up without a lot of resources. So having success and having significant income, to try to do it all over again, you kind of felt a little bit at 25 to 30. It's like, it just felt a little bit lucky. There was a lot of hard work and a lot of skill, but it did feel certainly that God lifted his face up to shine upon us, or that was lucky, or there's a lot of fortuitous moments. So I was like, I don't know if he's gonna bless us again. I was like, I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Okay.
So there was some of that for sure. So the stomach, the reason I ended up doing it all over again, there's one other competing factor that made it hard to do it all over again. The way my non-compete worked, which is really aggressive, is I wasn't allowed to stay in the industry or provide advice for anybody that I knew or helped for 3 years. So if I left my practice at that time, I could have sold it, had a really healthy paycheck, and kind of started something new, or had a long runway to be able to just kind of take a lot of time off for years and years. If I start a competing company the next day, I essentially leave everything that I built and literally have to start from scratch. And that time, we're talking like millions and millions of dollars from a kid whose first job I got paid like $4 an hour.
Right.
So like it was a pretty huge life moment for me. So it was hard to do it all over again. I was uncertain if we're going to be successful. And there was some pretty serious money on the table that I was like, I don't know if this is worth it. So everything kind of stacked up to like, let me just sell it and start a landscaping company or anything else. Kristen, my wife, was like, I think what you're doing is actually really noble, and the way you want to do it is really powerful. I think people are going to resonate with it. And I think you're kind of perfectly suited for it, so don't stop doing it. And I think that was probably one big motivation. The second motivation is I think I was just pissed off just enough with how it is being done today across the country. 90% of all people, all families in America are still getting advice from a bank, insurance company, or an investment company, and they're primarily just buying products from that person, thinking they're getting advice. I think that's just a dumb way to do it. I think there's just a lot of wrong incentives there. I think people are missing a lot of opportunities. I think they're paying too many fees. They're paying too many taxes. They're not hitting their goals as fast as they could. There's a lot of things that are broken because of that. And most people are affected in America by that system because they don't realize there's another option.
Yeah.
And the incumbents are like, they've been around for 150 years. They're like, why would I change?
Sure.
So I think that was the second one. Kristen really wanted me to continue to do it. And I did have a heart for it. And three, I just feel like, I was like, man, this is just the wrong way to do it. I think there's a better way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of why I doubled down and decided to start it all over again. And then we created ABRI almost 6 years ago now in Chicago. And we started all over again, one person at a time, and just kind of built it from the ground up. Yeah.
That's so cool. So another reason why this is fascinating to me is because, and I think you're very well aware of this, being involved in entrepreneurship now for a while and seeing it firsthand, the maybe prevailing notion in a lot of cases, and it's not necessarily that it's a wrong notion, I think it's just a different one, like software, for instance, like get out there, beat the market, get as much market share as you can, as quickly as you can, like work on the kinks as you're able to. And like, doesn't mean you learned how to code yesterday and you know nothing, but to say that you concretely understand the problem in a lot of business startups is probably not the case, right? Most of the time, it's like, I have a general idea of what the problem is. I think I've got the solution, and I'm going to sort of find product market fit as we go along. So your experience is pretty well the opposite of that, which is no, instead of, starting something new for the joy of a discovery, I'm going to stay here because I really, really know my stuff. So your story is a little bit different there. I'm curious how often you see, when you're working with entrepreneurs, business owners, this idea of becoming educated, becoming grounded, really understanding the market and the problem before getting started, or if it is more often about, we're just going to run real fast and try to gain traction as quickly as we can. Just in what you're experiencing day to day, what do you see the most of maybe there?
I think both work. I think starting with one problem can lead you to another problem, and you find the one that hurts the most that people pay the most for, and there can be a really great business there. I think that's somebody who's kind of floating around, just like being really curious all the time. It's okay to start with one problem and just ask a lot of questions, and you'll find more problems, and you'll find the problem. So a lot of little problems doesn't necessarily demand a full business or a full product or full solution. So but you keep finding until you get to like the problem that will move a market or move money or break up a relationship for something different. Then that's like something that will resonate for sure. I think when you get deep enough inside of any industry, cleaning, real estate, property management, wealth management, it's easiest to see the problems. I think that the deeper you get, the more aware you are of the problems. I think, but what ends up happening is the deeper you get, the more tired you are, and you lose a lot of the initiative momentum to break out and fix one of them, because you're kind of getting convinced every year. As deep as you go, you get more and more convinced that it's we're just going to be like this way forever. And that's kind of like the omniverse event. The ability is you got to essentially oh my gosh, if somebody found this out about our business, it would ruin everything.
Sure.
It's well, just don't tell anybody. And I was or it's well, there's an opportunity, but it's my business I'm talking about. It's not that guy's business. It's oh my gosh, this is my own business that I'm talking about. If somebody figured this out, they're I think people who show up and have a 1% relationship with advisor and just managing a circle of mutual funds, and that's all they're doing, is getting ripped off. I was shoot, that's what my business is in that old firm. I was oh my gosh. And so then I was instead of, and the thing a lot of people are well, I'm just not going to tell anybody. And just I'm going to keep making people feel really nice and send a birthday card, cook golfing, and take them out for a nice meal. And all the relationship will essentially hide all the truth. So I think in that situation where problem discovery can come with a lot of deep awareness, but then you have to have pretty significant courage to I see the problem. It's my own problem too. I'm willing to sacrifice everything to fix that solution. There's a lot of courage that's involved there, and a lot of risk, because there's a reason it's been done this way for a really long time. Because all of a sudden you pull the curtain back, and you would expect the crowd to see the close, or the emperor no close, and just turn and run the opposite direction of this new solution you've created. And you pull the curtain back, and all of a sudden the crowds are no, I'm okay with it too. You're whoa. So I think that is some of the issue too. Is well, this isn't the best way to do it. And then all of a sudden you're doing what is the real problem? Is it fees? Is it the time? Is it the solution? Is it the outcome? And then some people are like, I know I have a really bad advisor, but he's my uncle, so I'm going to keep him forever. I know my accountant sucks, like, but I went to college with him, so I'm going to keep overpaying, and he's going to keep shocking. And again, and that is a significant part of the client base.
Sure. Okay.
So there's that part of it too. It's like, all right, there's a better way to do it. So as you get deeper in a solution or in an industry and find the problems, right? Is this so compelling and so interesting and so valuable that it can create a large enough market to be able to solve for? And I originally thought in my idealism that if we created a better way to do it, like a 1% for everything. You get 1%, you get a full investment management, you get your taxes done, you get your estate planning done, you get insurance managed, all for 1%. Like, okay, that is like incredibly compelling. You no longer pay an accountant, you don't pay an attorney, like all those things get combined into one solution, one team, one advice for everything. You're like, okay, that is a really compelling investment option because everybody else is paying 1% for this and a commission for that and hourly fees for this. And it's like all those are stacking up. One, it takes a lot more time. Two, the outcomes are way worse. And three, it costs a lot more money. Like, all right, we'll build the perfect solution, which we have.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden people are like, yeah, but I really like my accountant. I know he sucks, but I'm still going to keep overpaying for him. Okay. And so then there's this new realization, like, okay, the problem is really deep. It's fixable. And you just have to accept that like there's people are still going to make their own decisions of like, it's compelling to me, I resonate, or like, it's compelling. I know objectively that is a better way to do it, but subjectively with who I'm working with, like I can't break up with this person. And there's that part of it, like they're like in any service industry, like there's just the reality to that. Like have now come to accept that where it's not objective, it's not math, it's not laying out all the causes. Like, all right, like I accept that, but there's still enough people that are compelled by it.
That's fascinating. That is so interesting to think that. Well, and it's kind of, I guess I've seen this too, because you know, in my early days with a software startup, with our first model was predicated on like the problem that we thought existed, right? And then it was the market come back and be like, no, this is actually what we want. And it's funny. It's like, you're like, okay, I concretely, by all measure of investigation and research, have compiled this perfect solution. Like this would work for everybody. At the end of the day, you have the human element that's just like, nope.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's dive into that a little bit. You talk about, you know, selling product, right? At your initial firm when you got started. I understand what you're talking about. Like but when you're thinking about how am I going to maintain a successful portfolio at this new firm that I'm starting, what do you, beyond just like selling advice and making it simplistic, like product versus advice, but what are you having to almost unlearn, right? Because if you're successful at something, like if you're a good salesperson, then that's an inherent skill set and that's where you build your success. But if you're like, hey, I want to fundamentally change, I don't want to sell a product anymore, I actually want to help people cohesively with an advice that is much more all-encompassing. Are there things from the way you built your first book of business that you had to restructure or think about in a different lens now that you're kind of changing the trajectory of the space you're in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say that probably the biggest change is speed to decision. When you're sitting with somebody, it's really easy for somebody to make a decision on a product. Like, will I buy that cup of coffee, or do I want more life insurance, or do I want like an object? Like a transaction is really efficient. Like I size up Aram, I like Aram, I need somebody to clean my property. Like, all right, like you got the deal. Like that, like I can make a transaction decision very efficiently. Most humans, not everybody, but most can make it in like 1 to 3 meetings maximum. It's like, hey, I understand the problem. Here's a solution. Do you want it? Yes or no? A transaction recommendation, and that happens in the insurance world, in the investment world, in the legal world, in the tax world. All 4 of those are transaction based. Is really efficient. An advice-based relationship, which is typically relationship-based and long-term and indefinite, feels much bigger for somebody to commit to. So that was like a new piece for us. It really not realizing is like, hey, here's all the solution. Here's a better way to be able to do all these things, and we can fix all of them for you. And immediately somebody realized like, oh my gosh, well, I have to fire the 4 people I'm working with now. That's definitely a better way to do it. But then I have to commit to Zack for the rest of my life because nobody else is doing it like that.
Sure.
Completely unaware. Like I was completely unaware of like all the emotional decisions they have to start making now. Is like, yes, that's a better way to do it. But my life changes and the relationships that I have. I went to college with a person. This person was in my wedding. I was like X, Y, or Z. So I think that was like, hey, this decision-making process is no longer as efficient as it used to be because people are making a long-term commitment to a different way to get advice and have much better outcomes because of it, but it slows down that process a lot.
Yeah.
So
No, that
before
makes a
it's
lot
like,
of
hey,
sense.
here's this thing, here's all the bells and whistles, it's better than the thing that you have, so buy this thing
Sure.
instead. It's like, hey, here's a different way to live and operate, make decisions, and everything is better because of that. But now it's different than like you used to take it, like you used to take this pill, now you're gonna take that pill. It's like, all right, it's a
Mm,
quick, immediate decision. Now it's like, it's not about taking the pill. It's like, all right, I have a lot of other decisions I have to make because of that. So I think that has been a new
yeah.
thing that took me some time to figure out. It's just like a slower, longer process, much more conversational. And it's not as like immediate or as objective. It's like, hey, I need
Sure.
a tax return. I'm paying $500 for a tax return, and now it's 1,000. I'm going to go to the $500 tax return. It's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
an immediate thing. I had to make a decision on before April 15th. So
Yeah.
that's been a new thing. That's been a new learning for me for sure.
Yeah. So essentially you're most likely lengthening the sales cycle to have a much stronger. You're essentially you're changing it at a system level, right? More so than just like I said, an immediate transactional product. It's funny because if you think of like the big changes, whether that's for a company like in my space in commercial cleaning, even like that's kind of a big deal. Like they're not doing that every month because it's kind of a hassle to onboard a whole new team and get them all the clearance they need and have all the signatures from corporate that's probably in 3 other states. It's like it's just a lot of work, right? And so our sales cycles are pretty long. Like they can run 3 to 6 months because they're just not trying to do this every other week,
Yeah. Yeah.
but if they have a contractor come in and like paint the front of the building, like that could be
One time.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Two
exactly. So
bids. Yep.
I see exactly what you're saying because it's you're moving past the product now. It's like, hey, I need you to understand what we're offering here at ABRI and how we're trying to consolidate so that you're having harmony in all these different
Yeah.
areas rather than competing interests trying to pitch you
Yeah.
their best deal.
And the
Yeah.
other part new is you have a very uneducated buyer pool. So anybody that's getting financial advice isn't an accountant, isn't an investment banker, isn't an insurance agent, isn't an attorney, but are using all four of those services. So someone's like, well, I have that done. I was like, well, then just take it. Like, are you qualified to decide if that was a good or bad thing? Like,
Mm.
well, I have my trust done. I was like, was it done correctly? They're like, well, I'm not qualified to even know. I'd have to pay another attorney to tell me that. It's like having tax
Wow.
returns
Yeah.
done every single year by a CPA. I was like, were they done correctly? And what person can say, like, I have no idea if it's done correctly? It's like, okay, my insurance. So all of a sudden you realize, like, too, I have a very uneducated buyer that feels pretty happy. Like, well, I like my guy because all these people are salespeople. Like, I'm really happy with all the people that I'm working with. The
Sure.
quality of work I might have might be total garbage, and my whole life is heading towards destruction. Like, I'm not on track for retirement. If I die, my money doesn't go to my kids; it goes to my ex-wife. Like, there's so many things that we have
Sure.
found as like, hey, just as a heads up, here's when we bring it all together. Here's the efficiency. Here's the harmony, and
Yeah.
here's the 19 things that you didn't realize would blow each other up. That kind of piece of it too is like it can be a long sales cycle for people that already have relationships. It's really fast if you're under 35, have nobody working with, you're doing it yourself. Like, yeah, I don't want to do this myself. That's definitely a better way to do it. So under 35,
Yeah.
it's like an immediately, yeah, that is a way better way to do it.
Yeah.
Over 35 or over 40 like, I have an accountant, I have an attorney, I have an investment guy, I have an insurance guy. Shoot, 4 people to break up. I don't know if they're good or not, but I like all of them. So now I'm making a relationship decision different than that's more subjective than not objective. So that can slow it down. There's a lot
Yeah.
of things that can come out.
That's fascinating. So I had this question I was wanting to ask you at blind spots. We did sort of talk about it a couple minutes ago when I said things that you had to unlearn. So this might be sort of overlapping here. You were talking about how going from selling product to selling advice, there are some things you have to unlearn. And when I talk to somebody who is successful quickly, right? Like more like less than 10 years, less than 15 years. Because I think generally if you stay committed and you work really, really hard, you can actually just outlast a lot of people.
Yeah.
But to do it fast is different. And to do it fast, what I have found when I've talked to especially younger people that did it quickly and were really successful is once they go to something else or even something that's adjacent, they didn't realize like kind of where their blinders were, because to go that quickly, to move at Mach 10, I mean, you're just like right here, right? And so you're good in that lane. That jet stream is great. But right outside of that, there's a lot you don't know about. So again, this might overlap a little bit with the unlearning question, but I'm just curious if you noticed if they were like, man, maybe they were, but like really obvious, painful blind spots as you were starting again. It was like, man, I really don't know this like I thought I did. Or again, maybe it's the relationship piece, whatever.
Oh, there's a lot I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really gracious. Yeah. No, there was a lot I didn't know. I think the multidisciplinary advice model versus, hey, we just give investment advice, we just give insurance advice, we just do tax returns, or we just provide estate planning. Um, I essentially went right to this solution. A family needs a will and a trust. A family needs a prep tax return. A family needs an insurance policy, home, auto, life, disability, and a family needs an investment and retirement account. Okay, that's the end solution. And we have working expertise right out of the gate in all 5 of those areas. What I didn't know is in the estate planning world, there's also like another 50 services that could get included in that. So where to limit scope? Where I'm like, hey, well, we can get like this insurance policy done, or we can ship a tax return. It's like, oh, but there's like bookkeeping services too. There's advisory services too. There's audit work also. There's compliance work or defense inside of like an IRS audit. Like, okay, there is actually in the full tax world, they're like, hey, we are not an accounting firm. That took me some time to not realizing like, hey, I'm looking at the deliverables and we can bundle all those together, save the client a ton of money, create way better outcomes, and they're going to be really, really happy. And then what ends up happening is that every other client has a one-off need, request, or interest that's inside of a different discipline that I did not grow up in. And realize like, oh, I got to really be very careful with the scope of services we're offering to like, hey, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, there's like some of those things that I was like, that really caught me like just completely blindsided. So like, hey, well, I think all of this is included. Is that included too? It's like, well, that's like 40 hours of work that I got to hire 3 more consultants or 3 more outside like CPAs to be able to get this like product done or this thing shifted. And like, okay, that was like a big learning piece of like when you're providing a service and not limiting scope and you're just looking at the deliverable. You had to be really careful. So we didn't end up losing a ton of money, but we ended up losing a ton of time. And there's just like a lot. It's like, all right, we got to like get really clear on what exactly we're delivering. And we got to make sure we have the team in place to be able to do so and not all those pieces.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's a great example. So I'm curious if you're talking to somebody who is successful in whatever they're doing, but they're, and this could be finance, this could be anything, but they are kind of like, all right, I'm ready to break out. Maybe it's like you, maybe they've seen too much and they know like I've either got to do something completely different or do it right here and, help people realize that. What kind of advice or, guidance would you give them for knowing at what point that would be the right decision for them? This can be obviously a mix of financial, but also just the knowledge base and the experience to know. Yeah. So like, what would you be looking for? What are markers? Be like, yeah, I think that you are at a stage, this would be a wise decision.
Yeah. I typically would take a step back and ask for motivation. A lot of people say like, I want to start my own thing. And I'm usually like, why do you want to do that? And a lot of people will come to like, well, I want to have more money, or I want to have more time, or I want to have more control. And most of the time, if it's only one of those 3 or only 2 of those 3, my recommendation is not to start your own thing, but either just work harder, get a promotion, get a degree, join a different company. There's a lot of ways to be able to make more money inside of your own discipline or own like career trajectory. There's a lot of ways to get more time too. There isn't a ton of ways. Like I want a lot more money and I want a lot more time and I want the control. And I think control is probably the one flag that drifts up to like, this is broken and nobody's willing to fix it. And I will do whatever it takes to fix it. And I'll put my house in line to be able to figure out that solution. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, you should probably start your own thing. Everybody else, they're like, I'm mad at my boss and I hate like the time off policy and I'm making 100, but I want to make 200. I'm like, you can figure out a way to keep doing what you're doing at a different place and make 200. Just do that.
Yeah.
Being a business owner is like the last job I'd recommend to anybody. Because you have to, like, the motivation is really, really important. Like, why are you doing this? And a lot of people did it because they want to make more money. A lot of people did it because they want to have more time. Some people did it because they want to have more control. But once you are doing it, like, it's like, yes, I have the control, but there's a lot of moments where I have way less money than I had before. And there's a lot of moments where I have way less time than I had before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I have the control, but is it worth less time and less money? And a lot of people, the answer is no. It's like, hey, you might make $250,000 a year. I was like, are you willing to make $50,000 a year for the next 5 years just so you can control it? or just because your name is on the building of it? And if the answer is yes, then I'm like, okay, then it's a really strong candidate. It's like, I would recommend that you take the leap. Everybody else are like, well, no, I'm only doing it because I can go from 250 to 500. I'm like, well, buckle up, dude. There's a lot of moments where you're not going to have that. So I think that's a part of it for me. Like I was, when I left, willing to make a lot less and work a lot harder to create the right thing. And that was really compelling to me. And there has been moments where it's been incredibly positive and we've had a lot of success post then. And we've had the time and have had the money and have had the control. And there has been a lot of moments too where we're reinvesting money and it's really skinny in certain moments. And there's a ton of extra hours like involved in something that I wasn't expecting. It's like, okay, so I have less money now. I have less time now, but I have the control. Am I still happy with this? I'm still really glad I did it. My current happiness at the moment is very low. But I'm still glad I did it. Like there's that part of it's like, all right, that's no longer the barometer. But I think with the advice is like, should I go do this thing? Business ownership in America specifically is kind of like the whole, like the Mecca. It's like kind of the idol. It's like all the success stories are always based on the entrepreneurship journey. So that part of it is like, hey, what are you actually motivated for? What are you trying to accomplish? Because in that journey, if eventually you get to the money or you get to the time or you get to control, there is a significant amount of cost. To your family, to your psyche, to your health. There's a lot of those things that most people, if they really knew what those were involved with, just wouldn't pay it. And that's okay. And I feel like I wish most people kind of learn that up front. And I'm still always working through it myself. Like, was this worth it?
Yep.
Was this worth it? And like, and my wife, sometimes she's like, definitely not.
Well, no, I think that is such a helpful thing to kind of check those 3 boxes, because I'm at the point now, right, where I've done it just long enough that I can tell people, look, if you have this fairy tale vision of, entrepreneurship, it is going to suck longer than you think it will. And you're going to make less money than you thought you would for longer than you thought. Like that's just the reality, right? Unless you're like a one-off, miracle case, which they do spring up from time to time, like it's just going to be a rough go for a while. And I think maybe people who are already successful, they almost think that everything will just transfer. It's like, I'm here and now I can just plug and play right here. And we're going to stay at the same level and then just move up. Like it's just a lateral and then up. And like I said, with few exceptions, I don't think that's usually the case, right?
Yes. It was true for me both times. So that's the issue. I think a lot, like we were wildly successful in our first business and have been wildly successful with ABRI. And I still am like, was that worth it? Because it's the money and time thing. What you realize is like, you can actually get that in a lot of places. Not everybody. And that's like a privileged statement, but it's like, you could be a doctor and you can be an attorney. Like there's a lot of ways you can have like some of those things. But I think what ended up happening is like, as a business owner, it's like, hey, we're really happy with the profits and we're really happy with my flexibility and I can control everything. Everything is working. But there's now all these like uncertainties you're dealing with all the time. Or like, is my industry going to change? Is the market going to crash? Is my client going to fire me? Are my employees going to leave? Like all these other things. Like on a vacation, it's like, well, I can never take time off. Like we take a lot of time off, but I'm now carrying all this time, this thing on my shoulders that it did not exist before. So even having a practice is different. It's like it's like the cost of the money and the time and the control can never like get out of my bones. So even when I'm at rest, I'm not resting. And that is the new thing that for a lot of people are like, well, you're not going to make money for a while. You're going to have time for a while. It's like, no, even if you are successful, just having a business is like this other kid that's never happy and never healthy and is always complaining. Yeah. And you're just like, why did I do that? So I think there's like that part of it. It's like, I had the opposite. I had this both times, double amount. It's like, and I just realized like, it just is this new life that I have where you're trying to be a present father, trying to be a present husband, trying to be present in a community. It's like, dude, I'm never fully present anymore, ever, anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about this other thing. My other employees, hundreds of clients, multi-state locations. Like I'm now just in this different life that I just didn't really comprehend. I just didn't understand. And somebody sat me down and was like, hey, just as a heads up, the path you're heading down has some pretty serious implications. You're thinking about the rewards, and with the rewards come a pretty heavy cost. Just really be really aware of that. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's bad. I've done it again. And we're doing it more times. But there is just that part of it. It's like, I don't know if that's worth it for most people. I don't know if it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I see some of my friends or clients are just like on like 2 weeks of vacation and paternity leave, just like they have nothing to do. There's no inbox. There's no, like, they're just like hanging out.
Just,
like,
just out there. Yeah.
man, it's like they're on vacation. Yeah.
It's funny because that was something I was going to ask you. Was like, I was curious today, like, what's your life today as opposed to, you said 6 years ago you started ABRI, right? It's like the startup phase. Now that that's over and you're kind of solidified, I was curious, like, does it feel differently to you? And it sounds like, yeah,
it totally is different. Net income growth, all the same. We have hundreds of families in 40 countries and states that we help. But yeah, the business is really happy and healthy and thriving. I work in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm home Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I take 3 months off in the summer and I take a full month off during the holidays. So I can be home physically. So from a schedule perspective, from a results perspective, everything is like, man, this is really great. We have a little farm. I chop wood and play. Like, we do a lot of really special things on the farm. That's where I spend a lot of my time. Physically, mentally though, it's like, man, it's just in my mind all the time. Just like always thinking about it, always not worry about it, but always thinking how to make it better, what's changing, something pops up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that, like, it kind of comes back to that full circle. It's like, there's just this a heavy responsibility, just like having 6 kids. You have a lot of kids, I have a lot of kids. There's like, dude, you're always, and people are kind of like, you're only as happy as your sickest kid. I was like, even when all my kids are happy, I'm still trying to think, like, how do I make a better home and what's like the next thing? And so that's a business with hundreds of kids now, or thousands of clients. Like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is getting multiplied beyond like what any human can really manage, I think, successfully or well. So that's, I think, our schedule is in an ideal spot, and we're really thankful where the business is at. But there is the life schedule that, like, I just can't get it out of my mind, and I can't figure that out. It's like, is it only are you only truly at peace when you sell it? Like, I don't know how it works.
Interesting. Well, man, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you sharing with us today. I'd be curious, just like as a final parting thought, maybe something you'd want listeners to remember about the kind of, again, the relationship we talked about, a true expertise and also building something that lasts. Like, if there's a foundational element there that kind of ties it together, what do you think that would look like?
Or just in any business in general? Like, how do you do that? I'm a little bit of an obsessive personality, so this is sometimes a hard bar to reach. But in the products or solution or services that we create, I always just kind of sit on the other side of the table. Like, if I was buying this, what would I want? And I think it's really easy to create compromise, because compromise typically creates profit. So it's like, hey, we can skinny this down, or we can change this, or we can adjust the service schedule, or drop out this like product, which always comes down to like net margin, so more money, like a lot of those things, right? So there's a part of it is like, but if I was buying this, like the integrity or quality. So for any other person, like, I'm trying to do something, like, how do I do this? And the opposite side of it, you want somebody to look at, like, this is like the best. Like, how is the quality so good? There's like, when the first iPhones rolled out, like, there's a commitment to quality that like Apple has that's really significant, and they have a huge premium on price because of that. That doesn't exist a lot in services. So I think a lot of the first business that get created versus products, which are much harder, services that get created a lot. And there's a standard of service that I think can be incredibly high and excellent. So I think that's probably the thing I would encourage, is like, be incredibly committed to an unbelievably high standard of service. Sitting on the other side of the table, like, if you were buying it, what would you want? And we're never to make a compromise, even if it costs more money or is inefficient. And then that, I think, helps a ton. I think that, like, for most people, creating something is a really healthy kind of like true north or bellwether. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Excellence always, I think, really helps.
That's awesome. Man, so good. So good. I think that's a great place to wrap up. Zack, what is the best way for people to stay in touch with you or ABRI, and where should they get connected?
Yeah, they can find our website really easily. Just go to abri.io, ABRI.io, and you can get a hold of us from there. And we'd love to hang out with you. Aaron, you're the best.
Awesome.
It's good to see you, bro.
You're the best. Thanks so much for hopping on, and look forward to catching up down the road, Zack.
Cool. See you.
All right. Cheers, buddy.